You don't have to know how it's going to work, but you do have to hold on to the idea that you can do both.
Welcome back to Happiness in Progress. I'm your host, Danielle Craig. I'm an Emmy award-winning journalist, a mom, wife, and you know what I like to say, just a person looking for more joy in the everyday. This podcast is brought to you by the Mail Tribune. You can find more podcasts at mailtribune.com. Today, you're going to hear from Nashville singers and songwriters Courtney Dashe and Morgan Leigh Garner. They are the duo that make up Hadley Park. Hadley Park's songs have been featured on the Netflix production The Ranch, Spotify's Wild Country and New Music Nashville playlists, SiriusXM's The Highway, The Country Network, and CMT.com. They have just launched a new podcast called Chasing Dreams and Raising Babies in conjunction with the release of their new music project called Time's a Thief. Today, we talk about not only music, but also motherhood and how those two coexist. We talk about how important female friendships are and the challenges of what they like to say in the name of their podcast, Chasing Dreams and Raising Babies. We also talk about the making of their song, Time's a Thief. I think this will resonate a lot with all of you moms out there. So let's get to it. Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
So tell me about how you both knew you wanted to make music together.
I think we kind of fell into it. It was not like I've never made well, that's not true. I've made music with like my brothers, but I had never really performed with anybody else.
In Nashville, they set you up on blind co-writes a lot. So if you're a songwriter, so you get set up like every day with a different co-writer. And Morgan was one of those blind co-writes that I got set up with. And it's hit or miss. You get along with some of them. You don't get along with some of them. I mean, you probably get along with all of them. You don't click writing with some of them. And so we just kind of clicked and then kept writing together. And it was probably like our third or fourth co-write. And we realized we were both pregnant at the same time. So it kind of, our relationship on many levels just organically developed because we suddenly were like, oh, this is going to be my pregnant friend. This is awesome to have a pregnant friend. And we enjoyed writing together still. And then suddenly her daughter was due a month before mine, and hers came late. Mine came early. And the next thing we know, we have newborns that are 4 days apart. So that launched like the next part of our relationship because we wanted to keep writing together, and with other people, but we weren't really sure who wanted to write with us when we had newborn babies that we were caring for full time and like breastfeeding and all of that fun stuff. And so we were like, you know what, let's just do this together. Keep on. Like once a week, we would get together with our babies and write. And that kind of just started the next phase, I guess.
That's amazing because those early months of having a newborn baby and trying to figure out breastfeeding and the whole thing are so hard to do alone. And so it's really cool you guys had each other to not only write music together but to also be learning early motherhood together.
Yeah, it was really fun actually, because, when we were both in the newborn phase, we would like text each other at like 3 a.m. being like, are you awake? I just got pooped on, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Nobody, even our husbands, couldn't really empathize with us all the way. So it was really nice to have someone exactly at the same phase.
I mean, exactly. Our daughters are 4 days apart. I mean, that just is so wild.
I couldn't have planned it that way.
Mm-hmm. How was that combined with writing music together therapeutic for you guys?
I think we both had this new fire lit within us when we had an infant, because especially it being a girl, we were like, oh my gosh, I want to show my daughter that my world didn't end when she was born. Like, if anything, it just lit a whole new fire. And we were like, okay, let's do this. So it was therapeutic because we could literally talk about anything we wanted to talk about. We could be texting each other or in person complaining about how many diapers we just changed, or, whatever newborn issue we were dealing with. But then we also could be talking about music in the next sentence and just being so inspired and motivated to make something happen. We didn't want to just be, hanging it up because we had babies.
I don't know that I was necessarily like inspired by motherhood per se, but just I think we were both kind of going through a bunch of different things at that time that had very little to do with having a newborn, or like a baby or a toddler or whatever. We were in our own lives. We were both kind of going through some different things. And between that and just the camaraderie of having the same aged kids, and then the trials and tribulations that go along with that inspired a lot. Just the hard times. I had 4 deployments in our first.
Yeah, her husband's in the military.
Not me personally deploying, right. But my husband deploying. In the first 5 years we knew each other. And so that right there, was, and then, I have 2 nephews and they were both struggling with going through cancer treatments. And so personally, I had a lot of shit going on in my life. And so for me, music was my escape.
Right.
And Courtney was my crutch,
Well, and the same for me, but it was like sometimes having another person to write with, not just relying on yourself to do it. When you look around your house and there's always more to pick up and there's always something stressful going on, if you have someone else to hold you accountable, then you can actually finish the thought process and make a song happen. So
yeah,
that was definitely helpful.
Mm-hmm. Morgan, it sounds like the relationship and the business relationship on top of it was really life-saving, or it was the saving grace
for both of us.
It's funny you say that, because one of Courtney's dear friends, who I have adopted as a friend as well, she said it's almost like you guys saved each other, which is, of course we weren't totally drowning independently, but
no, but there's a lot going on. I'm a stepmom. We had a custody battle going on at the same time. Then a couple of years into knowing Morgan and our daughters being a couple of years old, I started having more fertility issues, trying to get pregnant again. And it's just all this stuff that gets really heavy. Life is heavy. There's never, I don't know anyone that doesn't have something happen in their life eventually. And so it's nice to be able to have a person to lean on, but also someone that's got the same focus as you for how to get out of it. How are we going to get out of the trenches when we're having a rough day? Well, hopefully we're not having a rough day at the same exact time, and we can lift each other up and plow ahead. And also it makes great writing material.
Yeah. And even if it's not about that particular subject, you can take the feeling of that subject and
channel
the
it,
angst or the frustration or the heartache, and channel it into something creative.
Mm-hmm. We're going to come back to that, but I want to lean into the friendship part, because I have goosebumps after you said the thing about how you saved each other, because I think growing up as a female, hopefully not as much today, but I think the story that was always told to me was women are in competition and women are not friends. But how false have you learned that to be, and how important is it that we lean into our female friendships?
Oh, 100%. My female friends have gotten me through everything. And I think that there's this misnomer that, you have to look to your husband or your spouse for, support in every way. He doesn't have the capabilities to support me in every way. And also that's not fair to him. And so having those girlfriends, Courtney being one of them, I have a few other really good girlfriends, and you kind of know who's your person to call for that, whatever you're needing.
I agree. I think that you have different friends in different phases of your life too. Prior to being married and motherhood, some of my best friends are still my best friends, but yet our lives didn't line up then with kids and marriage exactly. So I feel like we kind of have other friends that became our primaries maybe during those phases and whatnot. So I know a lot of people would agree motherhood can be extremely isolating in that beginning phase, especially when you are just in survival mode. You're just trying to sleep when you can sleep. You're trying to keep a small human alive. And even your own husband can't understand that all the time, because the mom usually is the primary person. Yeah. It just is the way it goes.
They don't get it at all.
No. And so when, I'm sitting there essentially, I guess you could call it a maternity leave, though neither of us were writing for a publisher at the time. So we were making our own schedules, but what would have been a normal person's maternity leave, my husband's off going to work. He's coming home and he doesn't care that I changed 10 dirty diapers before 10 a.m. Like it's kind of in one ear out the other, but Morgan cared.
Well, and
she was like, whoa, that's a lot. Like, there's just
that phase of life. Do you remember they would come home and you'd be like recapping the highlights of your day, and it was
which aren't exciting.
I dodged an explosive diaper. It came right at me, and I just moved out of the way at the last second. And they're like, okay,
they're like,
and
cool.
all you
I got to
about, all you want to talk about is baby poop, vomit, first
it's not
steps.
fun for them. Yeah,
no, they don't care.
Right.
But then you text your friend, you're like, oh my gosh, she cut a tooth. What?
Yeah,
the men don't care.
Right. In my phase of life right now, the texts start around 2 to 3 in the afternoon during school with one mom going, is it wine time yet? Because it's been like a year, with COVID and everything. So yeah, I mean, it's fun how it evolves, but you need female friends, period, to survive life. I am like a firm believer in that.
Well, good female friends.
Yes.
There are a lot of toxic people out there, and I'm 34. I think I've spent the last 10 years weeding out anybody who does not bring me joy. Anybody who I feel like is jealous or negative. I don't have time for that. I want friends who buy a brand new car and I'm like, hell yeah, let me go test drive it with you. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Or get a single on the radio and you're cheering along with them.
Right.
I mean, life is too short not to be happy for other people.
Agreed.
Yeah, not spending it in the jealousy.
Yeah.
I love what you said about the husbands. Everyone thinks that the husbands are supposed to be the best friend now, because at my best friend's wedding, one of my best friends before I was married, the husband's mom pulled me aside and said, I need you to know you're no longer the best friend. And I was like, what?
You're like, okay.
Whoa. And I'm like really young, like, oh my gosh, I'm not the best friend.
Wait, yeah.
Who's my best friend then?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Is that horrible?
No, it's reality. So,
So what do you guys want your girls to know about female friendships?
That's a good question. I think I want Hadley to grow up knowing that, she needs to be the example. Because if you support your friends and you show love and kindness, that will come back to you. And the people who are not capable of that, they'll keep on walking. And that's okay.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, I think same thing. I'm really lucky. My daughter is like the most empathetic little child you've ever met. So she naturally is just very sweet. Like we can't watch a Disney movie still, and she's almost 7 years old, because she'll be like, why did they do that? Why did that person say that to somebody else? Like, and so she's very sweet, but she also came home from school a few weeks ago and was like, this boy told me I can't play with him next week. I can only look at him. And let me just tell you, like, this just flew all over me in so many ways. Cause I was like, okay, first of all, my girl, we're going to get a little backbone here.
Yeah.
Like, you will not be told what you can and can't do by anybody, not a girl, not a boy, nobody. Second of all, I don't care. She had a crush on this boy. This is a kindergarten crush. So it's very innocent, but I'm like, honey, listen, your friends are going to be your friends no matter what. And your friends are not going to boss you around. They're not going to tell you stuff. You find the friends that will support you and you support them back. To Morgan's point, you be the kind of friends you want to be. And if they're not being that back, they are not worth your time. Now, how much of my pep talk went right over her head at this age? I don't know, but I'm trying. Okay.
It doesn't matter. You keep saying it. You keep repeating it, and eventually it will click.
That's the goal. Eventually it will click. Okay. Let's go back to music. Let's talk a little bit about how it's been to juggle music and motherhood.
Motherhood is a juggle, period. I feel like I'm always playing catch up. If I don't have something scheduled to, like, Courtney and I used to have like a scheduled date where we wrote every week, and we don't have that anymore because of COVID, and we both had other babies, and it just got a little too difficult to come into town every week. But I find myself,
Morgan lives an hour from me. So
we live an hour apart.
Wow.
And I mean, when I feel like I'm being creative, it's like when the house is quiet and everybody's in bed.
Basically non-existent anymore.
Which is rare. But
you're like 2 a.m. Can we write together?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Well, in all honesty, I mean, nap times and bedtime are when some people want to sit on the couch and watch a TV show or a movie with their spouse. For me, to feel fulfilled and excited about life, I have to do something for me, which is music or podcasting. We've ventured into that world now together, or just I'm working on a book that I've been wanting to write for a while, but I do that during nap times and bedtime.
That's pretty much 12 to 3 and after 8.
Currently, but I have
our schedule.
Yeah, I have a 9-month-old and she's got a 2-year-old. So that's the phase we're in again right now. Like once they go to Mother's Day out and preschool and things like that, it kind of opens up the world again a little more. And we obviously can schedule babysitters when we need them for a longer chunk of time to do things. But that's how we're doing it at this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the hardest part about being a mom and also being a musician?
We don't travel much. We used to travel more, but we'd always bring the girls with us. I think speaking for other people, probably the hardest part would be leaving your kids. But we have made it a goal to never do that. That was something that was like the number one priority for us. No matter what opportunity came, our family came first. And so other than just the juggle, I don't think that there has been a really hard part for us because, I mean, we used to bring our kids into the studio sometimes if we needed to, and we just made it work.
Right. Obviously, we have to bring in additional persons sometimes to help us. We can't be on stage and also be watching our child at the same time. But we've been lucky. Morgan's mother has traveled with us. My mom was able to help in California when we played some shows. Her nieces, like we've had some people that could help us. And I mean, right now, I have a babysitter in the other room with my daughter and
my niece is
baby.
here babysitting. But that's what's, to me, what is so cool about what we do is that our girls and now our boys who are too little to understand, but they have watched us get songs on TV shows. They have watched us perform for large crowds. And they think that it's so cool. But I want them to see us doing that. I don't want them to say goodbye to us at the door and not know what we're doing or when we'll be home. I think it's so special that they get to be a part of it. And Hadley and Parker are what inspired the name Hadley Park. They are literally the essence of Hadley Park. They are what brought us together in the first place.
Yeah, I love what you said earlier about you wanted your daughter to know that life for you didn't end when you became a mother. Tell me a little bit about that and what you hope that your girls and now your boys are learning as they watch you succeed and follow your own dreams.
Well, I think growing up, I figured if I had a family someday, it would just magically sort itself out how I would continue my career dreams and have the family, but you never really know how that's going to work. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She didn't really have any career dreams other than that. I think she just 100% was stay-at-home mom, and that was great. But I always just had these dreams of doing. I wanted to do something with my life, and that didn't end, but nobody told me how to make it work. And so I think what I would love them to realize is that you don't have to know how it's going to work, but you do have to hold on to the idea that you can do both, and you have to figure it out because nobody's going to show you how to figure it out. So if it means you need to get childcare full-time to continue your dream, because that's what's going to make you a better person, a happier person in general, then so be it. If you are going to be totally distraught because you're leaving your kid in childcare full time, then don't do that if you can swing it. I mean, you have to keep your mental state good to be a lot of people parent.
I think a lot of people have mommy guilt, but at the end of the day, to Courtney's point, what makes you happy and what makes you the best for the time frame that you are with your kids. If you're exhausted and you're a total witch from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., you're doing yourself a disservice because you are making terrible memories. You're doing your kids a disservice. It is okay to walk out the door and go do something else for the entire day if that's what it takes to support your family. But when you're home, be present, and your kids are going to be so proud of you that you deserve to be happy. They deserve to be happy. It's a win-win, really.
Mm-hmm. And I think the answer is different for everybody, and it's okay to
Exactly.
realize that it's not supposed to be
Yeah.
the same. What would you tell someone who is maybe stuck in a place where they feel like they can't pursue their dreams because of motherhood?
It's tough because, first of all, having a supportive husband or partner is obviously going to make it easier, but that's not always the case. Even in our situations, it's not always 100% the case. Like we in the beginning, we're not bringing in any money at all. So it's like, if I'm sitting there going, I would like to get a babysitter, that's an expense when I'm not bringing in any money. But sometimes that's necessary for your mental state and for, achieving your goals. So is to stay true to yourself and look at your schedule and try to find a way. If it means sacrificing 30 to 60 minutes of sleep one night because you feel more fulfilled, do it. If the sleep is more important that night, get some sleep. I mean, it's a day-to-day decision sometimes, but there are ways to make it work.
I actually read recently that babysitting is a family expense. And I feel like too often the women think, oh, this is an expense because of me. And sure, it may be because it's when you're going to do something, but also your partner is doing something at the same time. So
I think that at least in my situation, and I know Courtney, probably yours too, the parenting falls to me. I am the primary parent and we're married. It's not, but it's like my husband will come home and he'll go, okay, I got to go for a run.
And he goes. And that's what mine does too. And they just go. It's Saturday and Dave just goes. I'm like, excuse me?
I know. So I've had to have the conversation so are you going to take the stroller to push the child that you're so willing to leave? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, I'm not asking you to take the kids. I just want you to think that I'm not here at your disposal. This is like a group project. I'm not the leader who's doing all the work. This is the joint effort. And there are days, like I have friends up here in Clarksville, and she hosts a spa day once a month. And we go and get massages. She has a esthetician come and we can do facials if we want to. And so I go, and I've started just going, okay, I'm going to spa day. And he's like, well, I was just doing what you do to me. Yeah.
I think that happens a lot. It's like a throwback from like the 1950s when the men just did their thing still. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe in other households where the man is the primary caregiver, maybe the woman does that. But I think women in general just tend to multitask and think about other people's feelings and needs more than men do.
We have the constant mental checklist. And I think I can say things and say things and say things to my husband and it doesn't register. He's a learner by doing, excuse me. And so if I just am like, okay, bye, he's like, oh, maybe I should check with her next time to make sure she didn't have anything, and I try to be respectful and he does too. But it is nice to remind them that we made these children together and it falls on both of us to care for them.
Yeah, it's definitely a weight that every time as the primary caregiver, every time you want to do something, you've got to make sure there's someone to watch the children. Whereas it sounds like it's just not the case for the guys.
Yeah. Side little funny story. Anytime I've run out, now that I can finally run out a little bit and leave my 9-month-old with my husband, without fail, two things happen. I'll text and I'll say, I'm on my way back. And I get a thank God. Response number one. Number two, I pull in the driveway and I've started taking pictures of it because it's hysterical. He's standing out front with the baby every single time, waiting for me. Like, hi, we're here. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like,
it's such a double standard, because if I'm gone all day doing something and I come home, he will literally dump the kids in my lap and leave, or walk out of the room, or go for a run, or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it's reversed and I'm like, I've had a day, he's like, don't just dump the kids on me as soon as I walk in the door. I'm like, you do that to me all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
If you need 30 minutes, that's fine. Just let me know. But I'm still walking out of the house because it has been a day. And he's like, all right.
I always give my husband the warning text. Like, so when you get home, I'm out. Like, yes. I'm going to be gone.
Yeah. And it's not every day, but there are days. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm in the throes of the terrible twos. We've just entered, and it is fun. I'll tell you.
I think everyone listening who has children definitely understands it has been a day.
Yes.
I want to make sure that we talk about the making of your song Time's a Thief, because I love the story. I love how it took 5 years. So let's sneak that in before we wrap up.
I think that is my favorite song we've ever written. And I think it is because it took so long for us to write. We started it the day we found out Courtney was pregnant with a girl. She had just gone to the
early ultrasound
gender test, whatever it was. Yeah. And we had our Tuesday rights, and she comes in and she's like, it's a girl. And we just like start screaming.
Yeah. And Morgan had this feeling that hers was going to be a girl.
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
we just had I predicted both sexes of both babies accurately from the beginning. I feel like I have a gift, but we were so excited, and we just started talking about our mothers and what it's like to become a mother, and our relationship. I was so attached at the hip to my mom. I mean, I was constantly like, hold me, hold me, hold me. So that was the beginning of it, and it was a completely different song. Mm-hmm. And then we just sat on it.
So songs can take different courses, and lyrics are really important to us. And I feel like sometimes you write a song and you go, okay, this is getting to the heart of it. This is like hitting that nerve that I want to hit in people. But this part is it's just not there yet. And sometimes you just don't have the right words yet. And for us, we had to live and be moms to these little girls for more than just, in utero. We needed to live with them and experience life with them to be able to properly write the rest of the song. So we had a version we sang and performed out for a long time, but we never recorded it. And then, okay, what was cool about the song, Morgan? There were other parts, like Morgan was pregnant with Jack when we finally finished the lyrics and got it right to where we felt like it was, the song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we were just like, God, what are we going to write today? And I think you were like, you remember that song, that mom song? I mean, the verses were very artsy. It
wasn't called Time's a Thief yet. It was like, yeah. And so we finished the lyric, and then we recorded the song when Jack was in the world already. So
he was in the studio with us.
He was in the studio with us. So like Morgan's on kid number 2 in like holding kid number 2 in the studio. Then we go to record the music video for it right before COVID locked down the world. And we used the music video as a chance to announce my second pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So it was just really a cool song, full of full circle moments for us, and will always be hands down probably our, most special song.
Mm-hmm. I love the testament too. You have to be in it to understand what it's like, even though you had a relationship with your mom and you could see from her perspective. Okay. I like to ask all my guests before we leave each other, what is the number one tip for more joy in the everyday, the good, the bad, and the in-between?
I think seeking joy in everything you do. I mean, you could be having a shit day, but the skies could be blue. And you could say something as, thank you for blue skies today. Just always try to find, we have this song called Things I've Learned that my nephew co-wrote with us. And while he had just been diagnosed with leukemia for the second time. And I think of this all the time when I'm having a bad day. And one of the lines is, see the good in all things first. These are things I've learned. And that's where my head goes with that question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. But I also just think, stop trying to make other people happy. Listen to yourself. Like, what is it that makes you happy? Like what Morgan said, is it a blue sky? Look out the window, find that blue sky. If you like some flowers, go get yourself some dang flowers. If you need something to brighten up your house, like if it's something little or something big, if you need 5 minutes or an hour to write like we do, or to talk to a friend, talk to your mom, like what is going to make you happy in the moment? You're not going to have it all the time, but you can have little pieces of happiness or joy anytime. Listen to yourself.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. I've just had such a great time talking to you.
Thank you for having us.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And of course, I will link all of the information so you can follow Hadley Park. I want to thank you for being here on Happiness in Progress.